Introduction to Web Development.
Hello and welcome to Web Development for Beginners. My name is Iman. I'm a software engineer and web developer with a passion for teaching others the art of building websites. I've worked on numerous projects from small businesses site to large applications, and I'm here to share my knowledge and experience with you. Whether you are here to learn new skills, build your own projects, or even start a career in tech, I'm thrilled to guide you on this journey. Web development can feel intimidating at first, but I've designed this course to break everything down into simple, easy to understand steps. This course is perfect for absolute beginners. No prior coding experience is needed. We'll start from the ground up, exploring the basics of HTML and CSS, and move into JavaScript, which will add functionality and interactivity to your sites. You'll even learn how to launch your first website live on the internet. By the end of this course, you'll have a solid foundation on web development and skills to build beautiful, functional websites on your own. If you're ready to dive into the world of web development, you're in the right place. I can't wait to help you get started. So let's jump in and I'll see you in the first lesson.
What is web development?
Now that you're here, let's dive into a question that's the key to everything we'll cover in this course. What is web development? Web development is quite simple, the process of creating websites and web applications that you interact with every day. Think of the websites you visit to shop, to read news, watch videos, or connect with friends. All these were built by web developers, working to bring ideas to life on the web. Web development can be broken down into two main parts: front-end and back-end development. Let's explore each of these means and how they come together to form websites we use. Let's start with the front-end development. The front end is what users see and interact with on a website. This includes everything from the text, images, buttons, forms, and menus. In this course, we'll focus on front-end development, working with technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to create attractive and interactive web pages. HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are often called building blocks on the web, and we'll cover each of them in details, showing you how they come together to form a functional, engaging website. And moving to the backend development. The backend, on the other hand, is where the data and business logic reside. It's what powers the front end. Backend development involves working with databases, servers, and APIs to store, process data, and deliver it to the front end. Although we won't dive too deep into backend development in this beginner course, we'll see how the front and backend works together. So why is web development so powerful? Web development can be used to create virtually any type of online experience you can imagine, from blogs and e-commerce sites to web application and social media platforms. Web development opens up endless possibilities for sharing information, building communities, and even running businesses. So, ready to get started? Let's jump in and start creating. See you in the next video.
Introduction to HTML.
Welcome to the next module. Now that you understand what web development is, it's time to dive into HTML, the language that forms the structure of every website. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the foundation of web development, used to create the basic structure of web pages. Without HTML, there would be no content on your website. That means no text, no images, and no links. HTML is made up of tags that tell the browser how to display the content. Each tag has a specific purpose, and when combined, they form the structure of a web page. The HTML page structure. HTML contains two main parts: the head that contains metadata about the image and the body that displays the visible content. Let's break it down. HTML tags. HTML is composed of various tags that define the structure and content of a web page. These tags are enclosed within angle brackets like HTML and body. Attributes. Tag can also have attributes which provide additional information or modify the tag's behavior. Example include href for links and crc for images. Nesting. HTML tags can be nested within one another, creating a hierarchical structure. This allows the organization and formatting content on a web page. Here is an example of an HTML page. In this example, you see the basic structure of an HTML document. We'll go into more details as we process. In the next video, we'll take a deeper look into HTML tags and how to use them. Stay tuned!
Basic HTML tags.
Welcome back. In this video, we'll cover essential HTML tags. By the end of this lesson, you'll know how to structure your page with headings, paragraphs, images, and links. Let's start with the most common HTML tags. Headings. HTML provides 6 levels of headings, H1 to H6. H1 is the largest and H6 is the smallest. Here is an example of code. Paragraphs. The P tag is for paragraphs of text. Adding space above and below the text. Here is an example of code. Images. Use the EMG tag to add images, requiring a src attribute to specify the image location. Here is an example of code. Links. The A tag with an href attribute creates clickable links. Here is an example of code. Lists. Use OL for ordered list and UL for unordered lists, with LE for list item. Here's an example of code. By combining these basic tags, you can create a solid structure for your web page. In the next video, we'll dive into more complex tags such as forms and tables. Keep going, you're doing great!
HTML forms and tables.
Hi! In this lesson, we'll cover forms and tables, essential for collecting and displaying data. Let's start by forms. Forms allow users to submit data, like signing up for a newsletter or entering contact information. The form tag creates forms with elements like texts filed, buttons, and checkboxes. Here's an example of code. Table structure. Tables are great for displaying data. Use table to create a table with rows TR and headers TH and cells TD. Tables are used to display data in a structured format with rows, headers, and cells. Here is an example of code. Forms and tables are crucial for interactive websites and data-driven applications. In the next video, we'll learn how to style HTML with CSS. We'll explore how to change the appearance of web pages. Stay tuned!
The box model.
Welcome to the CSS Basics module. This module dives deeper into CSS, covering essential concepts such as layout, the box model, positioning, and responsive design. We will start by learning how to customize web pages using CSS. Colors. Use CSS properties like colors and background color to set and background colors. For example, fonts. The font family property allows you to specify the font style. You can use web-safe fonts or import custom fonts. For example, effects. Enhance your design with CSS effects like box shadow, border radius, and transition. For example, now we're going to discuss the CSS box model, an essential concept for understanding how web elements are displayed and how their dimensions are calculated. Every HTML element can be thought as a box with four main components: content, the element's actual content; padding, space between the content and the border; border, a line surrounding the padding; margin, space outside the border, creating distance between elements. Here's how the box model is represented in CSS. Breaking it down: width 300 sets the content area; padding 20 pixels adds space around the content; border 5 pixels solid black creates a black border; margin 15 pixels adds space outside the element. The total width of these div elements include the width, padding, left and right, border, left and right, margin, left and right. With an understanding of the box model, we'll move on to positioning layouts techniques in CSS.
Positioning and layouts with CSS.
Welcome! In this video, we'll cover how to position elements and use Flexbox to create responsive layouts. CSS offers several ways to position elements on a page, helping you control element placement. Here are the most common types. Statics, the default position in document flow. Relative, positioned relative to its normal place. Absolute, positioning relative to the nearest positioned ancestors. Fixed, fixed in a place even as the page scrolls. Here's an example of each positioning style in CSS. The static positioning, relative positioning, absolute positioning, fixed positioning. Next, let's explore the Flexbox, a flexible layout model for responsive design. Flexbox allows you to design layouts without relying on floats, making it easier to align and space elements. Here is an example of code. In this example, display flex makes the container a flexbox. Justify content, space between, spaces item evenly. Align items center, centers items vertically in the container. Flexbox adapts layouts for different screen sizes. Next, we'll dive into making layouts responsive with media queries.
Responsive design with CSS.
Welcome to the final video in this module. Let's learn how to make our website look great on all devices with responsive design. Responsive design enables your web page to adapt to different screen sizes from mobile to desktop. To create this adaptability, we use media queries in CSS, which apply styles based on the device's screen size or resolution. Here is an example of media query. In this example, media query applies styles to screen devices. Max width 768 pixels applies styles when the screen width is 768 pixels or smaller, which is common for tablets. With media queries, you can adjust fonts, layouts, and colors based on the screen size. Using media queries lets us creative, device-optimized designs crucial for modern web development. This wraps up our CSS basic module. You've learned how to style elements, understand the box model and positioning, and create responsive designs. In the next module, we'll start working with JavaScript and add interactivity to your pages.
Introduction to JavaScript.
Welcome to this new module. This module covers the fundamentals of JavaScript, from variables and data types to functions, loops, and more. By the end, you'll have a solid foundation in JavaScript, one of the core technologies of the web. In this video, we'll dive into the basics of JavaScript, a key technology that powers the web. If you've ever wondered how websites become dynamic and interactive, JavaScript is the tool behind the magic. JavaScript is one of the three core languages of the web, alongside with HTML and CSS. While HTML structures content and CSS styles it, JavaScript brings that content to life with interactivity. When you click to a button or see a pop-up, JavaScript is often responsible. Without JavaScript, websites would remain static. JavaScript lets you add functionality such as buttons, that respond to clicks, real-time updates, and animation. It's truly essential for creating user experiences that engage and respond to actions. Here is an example of a JavaScript inserted in code. As you see here, JavaScript is embedded directly in HTML using the script tag. When you load the page, a simple alert box saying "Hello JavaScript" will pop up. This is just a basic example of JavaScript in action, but from this small beginning, we will unlock endless possibilities. That's our first look at JavaScript. In the upcoming videos, we'll start building on this foundation by exploring variables, functions, loops, and more. Let's get started with the basics of JavaScript programming.
Variables and data types.
Now that we know what JavaScript is, let's jump into one of the fundamental building blocks. Variables. Variables allow us to store data that we can use and manipulate in our code. Variables are essentially containers for storing values. You'll use them to keep track of information you'll need later, like a user's name, age, or score in a game. JavaScript gives us three main ways to declare a variable: var, let, and const. While var is the older method, we generally use let and const now. Let is great for variables that might change, while const is for values that stay the same. Here's an example. In this example, we declare age using let, so we can change it if we need to. The name variable is declared with const, meaning it won't change, and is active uses the older var method. It's important to choose the right type based on whether you expect a variable to change or not. JavaScript has several data types you'll use frequently. String, use it for text and close it in quotes. Number, numeric values for things like age, price, or quantity. Boolean, true or false values, perfect for yes or no situations. Null, represents an empty or non-existent value. Undefined, for variables that declared but not yet assigned a value. Object, complex data like arrays and objects that can hold multiple values. Great job! Now you have a grasp on variables and data types. These are foundational skills you'll use in every JavaScript project. Up next, we learn how to make our code even more powerful with functions.
Functions.
Now that we have a solid understanding of variables and data types, we'll talk about functions. Functions let us organize and reuse blocks of code, making our scripts much more manageable and efficient. Think of functions as a mini program within your code. Instead of repeating the same steps over and over, you can write them once inside a function and call them whenever you need to. To create a function in JavaScript, we use function keyword followed by a name and parentheses. Functions are designed to do a specific job, and you can customize that job with parameters. In this example, the function greet takes a name as a parameter, so then we call greet Iman. It logs hello Iman to the console. Functions can also return values, which is especially helpful for calculations. Functions are powerful tools. They'll create your code cleaner and more flexible. Let's keep building on this knowledge by learning about loops in the next video.
Loops.
Now that we understand functions, it's time to learn about loops. Loops allow us to repeat actions multiple times, which is useful when we want to automate repetitive tasks. Loops are essential for situations where you need to repeat a block of code. Instead of writing it over and over, you can use a loop to run it as many times as you need. JavaScript has two main types of loops, for and while. The for loop is great when you know exactly how many times you want to repeat an action. A while loop, on the other hand, continues running as long as a certain condition is true. Here's an example of a for loop. This loop runs 5 times, incrementing I each time. You'll see it log number 0 to number 4 to the console. And this is an example of while loop. This while loop does the same thing as the for loop, but it keeps running as long as I is less than 5. The I++ inside the loop increases I each time. With loops, you can handle repetitive tasks with ease. Now that we've covered loops, let's explore arrays and objects, two essential structures for managing data in JavaScript. See you in the next video.
Arrays and objects.
Welcome to the final video in this module, where we will look at arrays and objects. These data structures allows us to organize and store multiple values effectively. Arrays are ordered lists of values. You can store multiple related values in a single variable, which is great for managing groups of data. Objects, on the other hand, Use key value pairs to organize information, which is perfect for structured data. Let's start with arrays. The array is a list that can hold multiple items, and you can access each item by its position or index. In this example, fruits is an array with 3 items. Using fruits 0 gives us the first item, apple. Arrays are perfect for lists of similar data like names, scores, or products. Objects are different from arrays in that they use key value pairs. Here we create a person object with keys like name, age, and is active. We can access values using person.name or person.age. With arrays and objects, you now have powerful tools for organizing and managing data in JavaScript. Great job on completing this module. I hope you feel more comfortable with basics, and I'm excited for you to continue your JavaScript journey.
Introduction to responsive design.
Welcome to the Responsive Design module. This module explores how to create web pages that looks great and functions properly on all screen sizes. In today's world, people use a wide range of devices, smartphones, tablets, laptops, and desktops to browse the web. That's why responsive design is essential. As web developers, we need to ensure our websites can look great and work well no matter what kind of device people use. Responsive design ensures that your website looks good and functions well on any device, regardless of screen size. The idea is to create flexible layouts and adaptable elements that can resize and reposition themselves according to the device's screen dimensions. From small mobile phone to large desktop monitor. Without responsive design, websites may look great on one device but be hard to navigate or even unreadable on another. Think about when you visit a site on your phone and have to pinch and zoom to read anything. That's what we want to avoid. Responsive design addresses this by using techniques such as fluid grids, flexible images, and CSS media queries. In this video, we'll walk through the specific tools and techniques that make responsive design possible, starting with media queries.
Using media queries to create mobile-friendly websites.
Now that we understand the importance of responsive design, let's see how to implement it using a powerful CSS tool, media queries. Media queries allow us to apply different styles depending on the device's characteristics like screen width, resolution, or even orientation. So what exactly is media query? Think of it as a condition that asks, does the screen meet certain criteria? If the answer is yes, the browser applies specific styles we've defined for that condition. For example, we can set different styles for screens wider than 600 pixels versus those smaller than 600 pixels. Here's an example. We defined a base style for larger screens with a font size of 16 pixels. Then we use a media query to reduce the font size to 14 pixels when the screen width is 600 pixels or smaller, which is typically a mobile device. In this way, we can ensure that the text is easy to read, regardless of the screen size. Media queries gives us the powerful to create a consistent experience for users across all devices. We can do so much with media queries, from changing the font sizes to reorganizing layouts and even hiding or showing elements based on the screen size. In the next video, we'll put media queries into practice by building a simple responsive layout.
Simple responsive layout example.
In this video, we'll create a simple responsive layout that adjusts based on the screen size. We'll be using both Flexbox and media queries to make the layout adaptable and mobile friendly. We'll start by building a basic layout with a header, 2 columns, and a footer. This layout is a common structure on websites, where we often have navigation at the top, main content in the center, and some footer information in the bottom. First, let's go over the HTML code. As you can see, the structure includes a header, a sidebar, a main content area, and a footer. It's a simple yet effective layout to work with when you learning responsive design. Now, let's move to the CSS and style it to look good on larger screens first. Then, we'll add a media query to make it responsive for smaller screens. In this code, we set up a basic style for larger screens. The content div is displaying using a flexbox layout, with the sidebar and main content side by side. Now we add a media query here. In the media query, we check if the screen width is 768 pixels or smaller. If so, we switch the layout to a column-based structure, making the sidebar and main content stack on the top of each other. This layout works better on smaller screens because it's easier to scroll through vertically than horizontally.
Recap of what was covered.
Congratulations! You've made it up to the end of this course. This is a significant achievement, and today we take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered and the valuable skills you've gained. Throughout this course, you've been introduced to essential concepts of web development. Let's go over some of the key topics we covered to make sure everything is fresh in your mind. First, we started with HTML, the backbone of any web page. You learned how to structure a web page with key elements like headings, paragraph, links, images, and forms. These elements are the building block that gives structure to a website. For example, we learned about the header, footer, section, and article tag that help define different sections of a web page. Remember, HTML is not about how things look, but about organizing the content in a way that makes sense semantically. Next, we dived into CSS, the magic behind the look and feel of your website. CSS allows you to style HTML elements, changing colors, fonts, and even the layout. You learned about the box model, which is crucial for understanding how padding, borders, margins work together to control the spacing around your content. We also explored layouts, especially using Flexbox. Flexbox is an incredibly powerful tool for designing flexible and responsive layouts, ensuring that elements align and distribute space dynamically regardless of the screen size. Finally, we've introduced JavaScript, the language that adds interactivity to your website. With JavaScript, you learned how to manipulate DOM, which allows you to dynamically change the content of a web page based on user input or other actions. We also touched on handling events like click and form submission, making your website interactive, engaging. And remember, JavaScript is not just for front-end development, it's also essential for back-end development. But that's a topic we can explore later. By completing this course, you've gained a solid foundation in web development. You now know how to create, style, and make websites responsive and interactive. But this is just the beginning. Now that you have the basic understanding of web development, it's time to continue your learning journey. Web development is a broad field, and there are countless resources available to help you dive deeper into each topic. Finally, always stay updated. The web development world is constantly evolving. New tools, frameworks, and best practices emerge regularly. Follow web development blogs, enjoy developer forums, and attend online meetups to keep your skills fresh and updated. Don't be afraid to learn new technologies as they come out. Web development is always changing, and staying current is essential for any successful developer. Remember, web development is a journey. There's always something new to learn, and the more you build, the more you grow as a developer. Keep experimenting, keep building, and most important, enjoy the process. Congratulations! Once again, the completing this course. I wish you all the best as we continue your journey in web development.